Morning, everybody, and I welcome you to this great building. There's Russell over here. This is a long coming. Drop down gorgeous. We're glad to be here. And where here is meeting number 547. It's Tuesday, September 23rd at approximately 10 a.m. And we welcome the introduction. Welcome you all. And item 2 will be approval of meeting minutes, fiscal action reports. Let's start with the July approval of meeting minutes. So moved. Motion made, motion seconded. All in favor? Aye. Hearing no discussion, we adopt those meeting minutes. Let's do the same thing for the fiscal action report for July 2025. So moved. Second. Motion made, motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we approve that. Thank you. Project review action report, Vice Chairman.
We did it all in favor, right?
All in favor?
All in favor, right?
Of course. It was you did also presume. Thank you.
I had to say something today.
Put yourself down. How about it, Charlie? Look at me out, Charlie.
Okay, project review action report 2025-33. Whereas the commission has received and reviewed the project review action report prepared by the staff and dated September 16, 2025. Now therefore, and whereas the project review committee recommends acceptance of the project review action report, now therefore be resolved that the commission directs that the project review action report be incorporated in the minutes of the full commission meeting. So moved.
Motion's made, motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Moving on to item 4, Village of Lake George wastewater treatment plant septic receiving. And I'm going to say right now that, I know Bob Flack well enough to be able to say this. And when he announced his retirement, I said, who are they going to get to replace Bob Flack? And they found something to replace Bob Flack. They're very,
He's well represented as well.
you don't know what I was talking about, though. Welcome you to the mic. You're going to tell us about what's happening over there.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us and taking the time. I'd like to introduce Sean Doty, our engineer of record for the project. He's got a little presentation he'd like to share with you.
I've got the right shirt on to be strange.
Would be somewhat more moving. area too.
I'm gonna say, Sean, why don't you entertain us a little bit while we're waiting?
Your song and more interested in what's out there. Is there anything else you do? I don't know.
Hold us out to the next.
Check on the that was interesting stuff.
I think we're trying for this. One thing we learned is the role. Another thing. Item 5, staff modification variance. We having any input on this? We just have a resolution.
It's just me, provide a little bit of background. So, Mr. Ryan, he's applied for, currently has an 89-foot L-shaped dock with an uncanopied bullet. The uncanopied bullet was given a variance in 2016. This is 40 feet beyond 40 feet from the mean low water mark. He's asked us to put a canopy on that, as well as adding a second for his for the dock that is also beyond the 40-foot setback. We did not receive any comments from neighbors or folks that have access to the beach. There's no parent jurisdiction from the town hall, EPA, or PEC. Mr. Ryan is here to answer any questions or provide any additional information.
Go right ahead.
What's your question?
Yes, I think if we do this, take like.
We did that just over years ago.
Okay.
I don't know, did you?
I did provide some drone imagery in the packets. So you should
Yes.
also be able to see that.
So we just like, let's keep it short.
Okay.
So resolution 2025-36, with that modification, variance application number is DWN 25-4072, applicant is Joseph Inosi. Whereas the applicant has applied for a variance to modify the dock inside the 20-foot setback area, and the Lake Shore Park Commission has approved the application supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. Whereas the commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NYS 645-346 and the state environmental quality review act 6 NYS 617.5 that the project is a type 2 action and does not require further review of potential impact pursuant to impacts to the city to this act. And whereas the action is a minor project pursuant to 6 NYS 645.5.3. Public notice has been published and distributed consistent with the regulations. And whereas the applicant has requested a variance form 646-1.1C2I, no dock or walls may extend offshore more than 40 feet beyond the mean low water mark, where the dwarf intersects the mean low water mark. Whereas the applicant has demonstrated that strict conformance with the regulations will cause no unnecessary hardship. and due to unique and peculiar circumstances which impose substantial financial, technical, or safety burdens. Whereas the commission finds that there is no reasonable possibility that applicant's property will bring a reasonable return following performance with the regulation. Whereas the commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area which is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, will not have undue visual, cultural, audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Park Commission hereby approves the above application as proposed. So moved.
Motion?
Second.
We got a second? Any discussion, any questions? All in favor? Any nays? Hearing no nays. I apologize, I should have asked you to sit down during the meeting. But you got your resolution. Good luck. Thank you. Are we technically ready?
Probably. We should, that's less than reassuring.
Before I drag the secretary in. These items will be too long. What do you feel about that?
All right. Is it me? You have to do that control everything. Plug it back in. We're calling IT guy from start.
We did.
I hear there's numbers. Let me try to duplicate the screen. That we're scanning. Sounds like something. Second screen.
That's when you have like, multiple screen.
No, maybe. Maybe you know, Justin, you want to go? Normally it's just like a big wet. Yeah. I had USB today. I think you guys had yours. I have yours. On this computer. Yeah, just copy it.
Come on back there. Okay. Moving on. That's what I get for misidentifying them there. Put this thing on. Dock modification, Town of Lake George. Who does that?
It's also me.
Okay,
The applicant, Patrick Ford has, in 2022, the dock plan was approved for subdivision. The applicant has, since proposed to change that configuration based on, the shallowness of the water. He also like to add a sun deck, so he's proposing to, extend the dock out, to 79 feet and widen it just a little bit to accommodate, additional, boats. In 2017, there was a survey done that had a mean high water mark at a certain location where both the property line and the perpendicular line extensions all matched. Through basically erosion and changing structural lines, that mean high water mark has changed. So in 2025, the perpendicular line no longer matches with property line extension and then restricts the location more. And so the new application to be docked, it does require a variance because it's now in 20-foot setback. There's only been one comment received on the project, and that's the neighbors to the north, where the 20-foot setback is, which would be in favor of the project. No jurisdiction from the top hole to the LGPC. I believe this report is here. If you have any additional things to add or answer any questions.
Not too much to add to that. I mean, I think we have kind of a unique situation with shallow water in the area with deep water measurements, water depth measurements. The stream that kind of runs into the lake there, the building process, that is going to be introduced to the water stream, so that will, you know, hopefully, ensure that we stay. So, that, if you have any questions.
did we have a visit?
Yes, visit the site. Somebody's approved for the site. So, if the water measurements that they took, sort of just a back acquisition, it has a great advantage that the high water have been changed, that it would have moved without having to accept.
Anybody have any other comments or questions? The applicant?
I noticed in your application material, you said it's primarily for family use. There's no intent to rent out dock space?
No.
I would be in favor of whatever action you take, condition that be no Class A marine acres.
Class B.
Class B could be potentially discussed. Class A, I don't know.
Okay.
Add that caveat? Did it cause any hardship for you folks? How about a reading?
Resolution 2025-37, application number is EWN 25-4027. Applicant is Patrick Ford. Whereas the applicant has applied for a variance to modify the dock inside the 20-foot setback area on the Lake George Parkway, and has reviewed the application supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. And the commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NYS 645-3.6 and the State Environmental Quality Review Act 6 NYS 617.5. The project is a technical action that does not require further review of potential impacts pursuant to this act. And whereas the action is a minor project pursuant to 6 NYS 645-5.3, also notice has been published and distributed consistent with regulations. And whereas the applicant has requested a variance from 646-1.1C11, every dock or wharf constructed shall have a minimum setback of 20 feet from the adjacent property line extended into the lake on the same axis as the property line runs on the shore, where towards the lake, or at right angle to the mean high water mark, whichever results in greater setback. And whereas the applicant has demonstrated that in strict conformance with the regulation will cause unnecessary hardship due to the unique peculiar circumstance which impose financial, technical, or safety burdens. Whereas the commission finds that the project is no reasonable is no reasonable possibility that the applicant property will bring a reasonable return following conformance with the regulations. Whereas the commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, or harmful impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore, please resolve the Lake Shore Park Commission hereby approves the above application as proposed with the following conditions that the applicant doesn't apply for class A. So,
Motion made, motion second. Any further comments, discussion? All in favor? Any nays? Hearing none, that is passed. Thank you very much. Good luck. Do we want to continue with our final project? Shall we? Huh? Okay. Let's move to item 7, dock modification variance in the town of Walton. Another in.
Yes, John. So this is a request for dock modification. The dock is authorized by administration of the system wharf. About a 60-foot long dock. There are 4 parcels, deeded access to the dock. The dock historically has been longer than 60 feet. Landowners entered into a order on acceptance commission and brought the dock in compliance with the offshore limits. This past off-season, they submitted an application for a 98-foot long dock, 98 feet from the United Watermark, which requires variance. And folks are represented by Nathan Hall.
Hi, Nathan Hall from Stafford Carmen County. I represent the 3 families that use this dock at the property. As Joe summarized, we're here today seeking approval for a 100-foot long dock that extends 98 feet from the water. The existing width of the dock is 4.5 feet. We would just propose a straight dock all the way out. My clients have, really worked to, Joe's been great, and we've been working through this process to try to submit, documentation showing why we feel the length is necessary. The water levels are low at this area, and there's docks nearby, which, my clients voluntarily put it in shorter this year while we work through this process. But that presents hardships as far as the dock to the north has boats on my client's side, and the dock to the south as well, and it's provided difficult navigable conditions. We haven't been able to utilize all of the dock spaces. To be clear, there's 4 properties with dock rights owned by the 3 families that are my clients, one of the properties has not been developed to the residents yet. So as part of this application, we're not proposing to add any traffic to the area. We're not proposing, anything other than what we feel is necessary to have these 4 berthing spots safely utilized. Joe had sent me some drone footage from last night. I don't know when the drone footage was taken, but we received them yesterday. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention after sharing with my clients. It looks like this is proposing a configuration with essentially a 90-foot dock that goes 88 feet from the mean high water mark. My clients have some trepidation about that. We feel like 100 feet would make things much safer, especially with the docks on the south side. There is a boat in this depiction that is parked inland from all 4 berthing spots on our dock. Sometimes the pontoon boat parks there, a larger boat, and with 19 feet between dock 5 and 6, my clients just want everybody to be able to safely access the lake. And we feel as though what's been submitted and proposed with a 98-foot dock from the mean high water mark is the minimum necessary so that everybody can access their boat safely and continue to use the property as it's always been. I'm more than happy. My clients are here as well. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions. Commissioner may have.
Anybody have any questions, thoughts? Exactly why you think that the 88 feet is unacceptable? Do you have any evidence that this will work?
Well, our concern, sir, is that, you know, as you can see on here, there's 19 feet notated between the lower right berthing space on our dock and the dock to the south. There's a smaller boat in there in this depiction, just when the drone footage was taken, but there is a pontoon boat that uses the other building for the other berthing location. And they do somewhat switch places from time to time. My clients have no control over how they utilize dock 6. So, you know, we think pushing it out to the 98 feet requested from the mean high water mark just gives a little more space there for safe navigation and berthing. Also, I mean, it remains somewhat low water tables throughout, so, or low water levels throughout, so the extra 12 feet would just make it a little deeper. My clients' boats have gotten beat up over the years.
Didn't see some public comment, unless in the language, I don't know if anyone here, if anyone else is.
Okay. But Joe, is the comment we made, is that in addition to change to the application? The change was that Joe drove the pictures of her copy. Basically allows, and it's 15 feet between the boats that are docked on the north side as well as the current dock that they're proposing. And so we thought that, given that distance, it's fairly straightforward that you could easily move the boat over there. The purpose of extending it was the fact that if you did extend it, you'd have to move the boat in order to get your boat out to the lake. And so that's the purpose of extending it, would allow them to move boats without get access to the lake without having to move the additional boats. So would the proposed extension create any adverse conditions? No, but it's the fact that they don't really need it in order to be safe as far as navigation goes. The simplicity of launching, going in and going out. Right. For the inner boats. Yeah, but there's plenty of space between them. Okay. You see the drawings that Joe to the wall.
Joe,
I don't think that's the house.
when we were there, did we want the extra 12 feet?
I forget.
If I may.
This has been in the hopper for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah,
And we visited twice.
Yeah.
And we did visit this year. But, you know, with Joe Drew on the map that we have, it seems, it appears to be safe with the 88 foot extension versus the 98. And due to the fact that we've been through this for years, it seems a reasonable approach.
So just to clarify, in case there's any confusion, we requested 100 foot by 4.5 foot dock. That's what has historically been there, and that's why this has been on file for so long. So we're not coming today to change our tune and request an additional 12 feet. We requested the 100. Joe provided documentation showing what it would look like at a reduced length of 88 feet. We would like the 100 feet. We think that that's a safer, both from a water level as well as, boat navigation. But we're not changing the application.
Staff is recommending 88 as opposed to the 100.
Yes.
Am I hearing you recommend?
It's not argument, so basically, the dock has been there, it's clear, that the application materials showing both the spots that you can't safely put 4 boats on a 6 dock. So it needs to be running from the river to conduit access. The question is, how long does it need to be to conduit access? So that's for 100 feet, that's going to number it to the number wherever. This analysis is going to look at some. What's the minimum area necessary? Is 100 feet necessary, or can they, have repeated access and safety of interesting this with less than that's all this exercise is. Try to show you go to the local in the space, and can they do it with us or not? Just kind of a discussion and give everybody a visual.
This has nothing to do with the application, but have you noticed a significant hardship with the low rate is this year? As far as.
I was-
It's really, I can't even imagine in here what's going on.
I mean, my client's concerned to speak to that, I'm sure that they have, and also they've been dealing with an even, like, they've been at 50 feet this year, just, again, in an effort to be cooperative and compliant while we work through this. So, yeah, it was certainly a difficult season, exacerbated by the water levels. They did not have any, like, they didn't use all four, they weren't able to work four boats at this location this summer. But yeah, the water tables are low, and the only other thing I just mentioned is, Joe put the application materials in using the average size of the boats that my clients are currently utilizing. Again, we have no intention of doing any, Class A marina activity here, but, if my clients were to sell the property and somebody would buy it, we have no, say over what size boat they would have. So that would be another factor that I would ask the board to consider, that boat sizes change and through no fault of my clients or control that they have over the situation, that we just want to make sure that it's safe for everybody.
I didn't see the application materials, how you propose to build the additional light? Is it gonna be a wood stake dock or gonna be some other materials?
Well, so as Joe said, the dock has historically been there for some time. So what my clients have, I believe is like a section dock that they put in each year. Each section is 24 feet.
It's basically what I'm
So basically, let me answer my question, you take the dock out each winter,
Yes.
so why don't we approve the 88 feet, and you can come back at the 88 feet, truly a hardship, and add length to another year.
That's a good proposal that I'm in favor of.
So it would reserve obviously, we would have the right to come back and meet with you again and go through this process again, if that 12 feet becomes necessary.
For the record, 100 really is 98 on the application.
Right, because it's 2 feet beyond the
2 feet.
mean high water.
One of the questions, by extending the dock out, it would appear in the pictures I see, it is possible to park boats farther in closer to shore. Is there anything in the application that limits this to 4 boats? Instead of the applicant, even though that's inconvenient, you could park 2 other boats inside, and have 6 boats here easily. And then you have to move boats. So that's why we allow them to go to many more boats.
The application, one of the conditions we're going to put in there is it's 4 vessels, 1 vessel per deeded lot.
Thank you. That's the reason.
That'll be part of the.
That's
any
part of the
resolution
condition
we might have.
I think when Joe's doing the analysis together, he was fairly conservative on the dock space, because it's the existing, it's about 10 feet closer than Joe's did in the closest. So we can add in where we currently are with that first and second step. This is a fairly conservative rendering of the availability to dock at the feet. Because as Mr. Mason knows, so I think it's at least staff's intention to provide. To look at it from the applicant's perspective, we didn't have enough space, so we can always do things conservative. This isn't continuous to be Joe purposely pushed that out to see if it would work at a reasonable distance. So I think that's a good factor. It's built into the analysis, but
Yeah, that's it. We don't like to see applicants have to come back, we want to, give you guys discussion. Realize you have access and continue to do so. So that's always an exercise, it's just getting the facts out there and seeing how much we would need to time existing use with, it's obviously we can come back and whether that's a 45-foot boat and the variance, the board might not be as keen to approve that, but a typical, It's appropriate, 23 years. So the hope is that this can safety will become very close. But that's, again, why we're in this kind of.
Is there anyone else in our audience that wants to speak on behalf or again, or about?
Mr. Chairman, one of the questions. Is it all right right now?
Sure.
There was an enforcement action with this, was there not? Yes, that all was part of this, that party. There's nothing matter, but there's just, additional units to do.
That was still the best wall in the next wall.
Justin, you say that we're ready to be up and running? Any guarantees on that? Mike? Still apologize to the mayor? It's gonna be a long meeting. Number 2 names. Names starts with the action. Cactus.
I have no more comments. My clients rely on me to speak. I mean, we would reiterate to the board, I know it's essentially it's you. We do have concerns about the south side access for dock number 6, whether that gets congested. With boats driving through there, the larger pontoon is inland and needs to come out. We would just ask the commission consider that, and make sure that what's there is safe. We appreciate everyone's consideration of this. And yeah, happy to address any other questions. We appreciate the line of communication.
And we'll introduce a resolution, and the resolution is read. Of course, adopted. I'll ask the board if there's any other changes anybody wants to suggest to add. Pass by you.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay. Joe?
Okay, resolution 2025-38. Application number received at the address 2430-126. Applicant is Lori Fife. Has applied for a variance to extend the length of an existing pier. Whereas the Lake County Department has reviewed the application, approval documents, competency and other information which appear in the record. Whereas the commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NYS 6.5-3.6 in the State Environmental Quality Review Act 6 NYS 617.5. The project is a type 2 action, does not require any further potential impacts pursuant to this act. Whereas the action is a minor project pursuant to 6 NY CRR 645-5.3, and public notice has been published and distributed consistent with the regulations. And whereas the applicant has requested a variance from 646-1.1C7/3, maximum number of docks per length of a lakefront, and 646-1.1C2. Offshore distance exceeds 40 feet from the mean low water mark, whereas the applicant has demonstrated a strict performance with this regulation to cause an unnecessary hardship due to the unique and peculiar circumstances which impose substantial financial, technical, or safety burdens. Whereas the commission finds that the project is no reasonable possibility that the applicant's property will bring reasonable non-following performance with regulation. Whereas the commission finds the project will have no adverse impact on the health, welfare, safety, and welfare of the public and the environment or the resources of the park. will not alter the essential character of the area which is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, will not add an undue visual, cultural, or auditory impact on the neighborhood of the park. Therefore, result the Lake Shore Park hereby approves the above application with the following conditions. Subject stop is authorized with a maximum length of 88 feet, mean high water mark, and the subject dock will be limited to a total of 4 vessels, 1 vessel per deed of land crossing. So moved.
Motion. Second. Any further comments from commissioners? All set? All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Hearing no nays, the resolution is passed. Along Lumpy Road is over. Good to go. And this one.
The problem is you only have the first slide.
Was that, yeah, you can always see the first slide. Well, I'll do my best with the PDF, I guess. Okay, let's see what happens here. All right, okay. For the record, Sean Doty, Scott Doty Associates, of course, the nurse here. George, we're here to talk to you today about the village's additional septic acceptance project. Right here. As you all know, we're working for you on a septic report for the basin wide study on how much septic is created within the basin and how much ability there is between the 3 main plants, which are Tiger Road, Lake George, and West Falls to treat this. We already know that there is more demand than there is capacity to treat. The village has been, as of a couple of years ago, advancing this project, which is to create more septic treatment at their wastewater treatment plant. They commissioned a study already, which has identified a recommended alternative, which I'll get into in a minute. And everybody also knows that the village has a brand new wastewater treatment plant. And so the question becomes, well, how come we can't treat septic, enough septic to meet the demand, right? And that comes down to questions. And the stricter limits that the new plant has compared to the old. And so the new plant is based on what's called a sequencing batch reactor. And that name is based has in the word batch, right? And that's how it treats. It has a 6-hour cycle where it allows regular municipal wastewater to come in for 2.5 hours. And then a valve shuts, wastewater goes to the tank next door, and reaction and treatment occurs within the first batch over a series of about 4 hours until it's the final effluent is let out. And that cycle just keeps going from the different tanks, right? And so for septic, you can only allow so much in each batch because it's very cool. This is probably a little bit difficult to see. But for example, biochemical oxygen demand on average in septic, according to the EPA, is about 6,500 milligrams per liter. In traditional municipal wastewater is about 200, right? So many factors stronger. So thus more difficult to treat. And so luckily the village already has a septic receiving plant. Can treat up to about 14,000 gallons. The operators can reach out and treat more than that in certain ways. And the way it works is because of those sequencing batch reactors, is they have a schedule. And the haulers, you can see this is hometown, call the plant and say, I have a load that we have coming at such and such a time, can you accept it? And they can, depending on the SDRs, they can't just say, hey, you gotta come back later, right? And so
So then that hauler may have to choose to go to Mounts Falls or somewhere else. And so this project is intended to reduce the scheduling conflicts and provide additional treatment. Okay, so just a little more background on existing treatment of septic at the plant. This is obviously a truck pumping. This was connects to the building. This is their it's called rack system, and they can use a touchscreen to deliver their septic if you want to call it that. And then inside there is first septic goes through. It's what's called a rock track. It's just a very big screen. It takes the biggest part, biggest solids out, and then it goes through really what's considered a fine screen, where you get a lot more of the smaller solids out. And the liquid then is this is that building we talked about. Liquid that goes into this pump station, and it is routed up to what is considered the headworks of the wastewater treatment plant, which has fine screens and grit removal. So you're trying to take as much solids out of the wastewater before it ends up going over the answer post. So that's the existing treatment network. And that, by the time you do about 14,000 gallons a day, again, it'll just do the job operating. And so for the proposed system, the selected alternative from the initial engineer's report is to take advantage of an existing equalization tank. So prior to the upgrade of this wastewater treatment plant, all the flow from the village to the town would pump to this big concrete tank here and be equalized. So if you didn't do that, you're running on pump stations, you can get spurts of flow, right? Putting in this equalization tank allows you to collect that and then let you even that amount through your system, so as to not upset it. Okay, well, the benefit of keeping this tankage is that now we can use it. And concrete tanks are very expensive to build in this whole wastewater treatment world. So anywhere from the order of $2,000 to maybe $2,500 a cubic yard for concrete installed for tankage. Because there's so much rebar, super expensive stuff. So you try to never demolish the tankage that you might find use for later if it's still reasonable shape. So the idea is we can still use this main septic receiving station because that's the interface for people to dump and also have the preliminary screening. Then the septic will be pumped past the headworks into its own grit removal system here and into this old EQ tank, which will turn into treatment by putting aeration in. And the slang term is to sweeten. It's not very sweet. Right? The sweeten before it goes to the SBR. So you saw before that the BOD was like 6,500 milligrams per liter. That's how much oxygen the wastewater is demanding. And so you have to kick that BOD number way down to get it similar to what's normally going in, which is around 200, right? To get it strength down, just as a proxy for all treatment, right? And so that's the idea. That's what this project is, which graphics not the best graphic I get, so it's not all that compelling. That project's about tripling the other project, believe it or not. We gotta rehab this tank, which is still in reasonable shape, it needs some work, and then we've got to build something to house blowers and do grit removal as well, do some electrical upgrades. Okay, so your help. Again, the village had already commissioned engineers reports to look at various alternatives. I just spoke about the recommended alternative, which of the one study is the best option. And the existing funding mechanisms, the conventional ones, which are largely through EPC and EFC, are written primarily, which makes sense, to address water quality impacts that are not as abstract as septic system or water septic systems. Perhaps they want to address, they give priority to plants or problems that have notice violation of consent orders with the ECRE wasn't a problem, right? And, municipality or other entities can help do something. And so, trying to find funding for septic projects is just not well suited for the existing funding programs. However, the village has been diligent in applying and has received the opportunity to take 0% interest financing, which is not be significant on $3.8 million. A couple $1 million in interest at least for a 30-year term, so that's pretty stable. So where we are in the project point right now is we want to verify through preliminary engineering that the village ratepayers do not subsidize the septic community, right? And so the village ratepayers are paying for a sewage treatment plant to treat sewage. They can't subsidize folks that aren't connected to the plant. You have to reserve capacity of your plant for those connected to it. And so we have to do enough preliminary engineering outside of the engineer's report that was done to start laying out the building, get quotes from vendors for certain equipment, and build a much more refined estimate to have greater confidence in the construction costs. And also, we believe that demand is there, but we've seen it, and people are turning away, and then run calculations on where that breakpoint is so that village ratepayer is not subsidizing the cost to treat septic. Some of the other work we're going to do with that is have a better understanding through sampling that's already going on to the operator to shut. What are the real BOD, TSS, ammonia, and phosphorus numbers we're looking at in the septic we receive? Largely using BOD as a proxy for everything else. And understand on the overall cost of running the plant, basically $1 per BOD, and you can relate that to how much septic is really costing you to treat, right? So as much as it is to advance engineering, to better understand construction costs, it's also a financial analysis to make sure that, again, ratepayers aren't backwards on subsidizing folks that are having a tank and that are paying things, right? Yeah, so that's the story. I'm glad to take questions.
So the rates that would be charged to haulers would reflect not only the new project, $3.8 million project, but also some of the O&M for the plant.
Yes.
So, right?
Yeah, ideally, in an ideal world, you're at least breaking even on collecting septic. And there's, obviously there's market here too, right? The other plants charge a certain amount as well. We have to evaluate if there's the ability to charge what's actually needed.
Will this drive customers away?
Yeah, right. They might decide, in the work that we're doing for we've already interviewed some haulers and we've obtained through FOIL requests from the DC septic reports. So each year, each hauler has to identify how much septic they take and where they dispose of it. And there's a significant amount that is not haul. Part of that's convenience because Albany does allow for the acceptance of grease too. There's such a pollution factor in treatment in there that folks that have mixed loads don't have to, that otherwise couldn't go to Lake George or West Falls, can go to Albany, so there's convenience, but we're digging down into the details to fully understand the demand out there. So the request on behalf of the village is for some funding to help support preliminary engineering because besides borrowing, there's no grant money that's really out there to support it. And the village is keen on helping to provide enough septic capacity, at least not count the amount that's out there by doing their part. The proposed project, at least by the engineer's report estimate, should increase it from 14,000 to about 42 or 43,000. Of course, that's very important to confirm from the preliminary design. Do we agree with that based on all the other proposals? Because that's all that part of that financial analysis.
So this is
Yes, right now it's open air. Tim Shutt, who was always thinking, many of you might know Tim Shutt, he recently said, hey Sean, why don't we think about, instead of going to the prior EQ tank, we have these secondary clarifiers that were also not demolished as part of a wastewater treatment plant upgrade project that are sitting empty. There's tankage in here in the building. And so that, none of that's been evaluated yet, but there may be merit since there's a building over it to where we can do this treatment inside here, maybe implement odor control too. Because everybody's been concerned about odors, right? Septic is strong stuff, and every time you aerate, you're basically pumping that smell into the area, right? For treatment. So as part of this preliminary engineering, we gotta do at least an initial evaluation of this to see if the cost is around the same amount. I don't know yet what building confirmation is.
Is that the same size?
Give or take, so there's two larger secondary clarifiers in this portion of the building, there's one smaller one here. It's probably close to maybe a little bit bigger. The usable space in the tank, you have to see if it's the same.
That will be the one.
Yes. Yes.
So that will continue sitting there in the future.
Yep, asset, yeah. Yeah, and so we can shoot here, go down by gravity, make a connection to this tank. Probably we'd have to install a new pump station, force we can get it back up here, or at least into the SPRs, but it's a feasible alternative that has merit, we should be looking at. Yeah.
Has the smell sheet reported?
No, they're not with their existing system. All the septic is received inside, and then the point source for potential send is this pump station here. We designed in 2011 or 2012 and put carbon filtration on some of the vents here, so that hasn't been an issue. And to my knowledge, I did hear last night at a planning board meeting in St. George, I think a planning board member mentioned that when they drive on the Northway, every once in a while it smells wastewater smell. I drive by this all the time. My kids are sick of me pointing it out. Every time I drive by, I've never smelled anything personally.
On top of those tanks, I'm hearing from yesterday with Tim, and we were amazed, it was just like we're here right now.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, it's all aerations after the fact, it was surprising. I think that's his concerns about that.
Yeah, and you know, with how the day settles and you can imagine some traffic coming down Prospect Ground before 6 over this tank and pushing it into the future. So there's potential for that. So we'll look to see if we can take advantage of this building. It's just, you know, one building can rot from the inside, right? We're trying to use the existing building, maybe not use it before.
Would you look at something to cover that? I mean, like looking at the variation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cover that, doesn't.
Yeah, there are pressures they cover. That can help. In order control can work. It's not always the best, but if it like cut it down to half and cause some change. Yeah, it does.
So at some point, you have to make a decision between project A and project B.
Yeah. Project A, we'll call this A, has at least a concept associated with the construction estimate. This new idea from my friend Tim is rather new, it hasn't been looked at yet, so that will have to be advanced on to at least have confidence of, are we going to be less of a budget, and we can add it into this financial matrix. Cost of septic, and what we got to charge to make the ratepayers whole.
So, the charge, obviously, how do our rates now, or proposed rates, look compared to all? Is all of that much more expensive, and we spend the time and energy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know what all the charges. The 3 plants here generally are similar price or the same price. I know the village is looking at increasing the rate, so is Track Road, and so is West Falls. What's the current rate?
100,000.
Yeah, okay, so it's.
We're at the same rate as Ticonderoga and Glens Falls.
Yeah.
We were the first to raise it only because we saw the writing on the wall. So they followed suit. They're actually, Glens Falls is talking about raising their rate again.
Yeah.
So, I'm not gonna go neck and neck with them, but it costs a lot of money to treat this stuff. So things, if you go to the grocery store lately, you see how much costs have gone up. And it's the same for wastewater. Wastewater used to be the cheapest function of a municipality. Now it is the most expensive.
Yeah.
And
your plant uses a lot of high technology to meet the permit limits.
yeah, it's not what it was. We have scientists that work for us, and they're getting degrees. We're putting them through school, It's a very serious job. No one ever planned on working in a wastewater treatment plant. But the ones that do are well-paid and highly trained individuals. So it's, and, you know, we're trying to be good stewards. You know, we talked to our attorney, he's like, you don't even have to take wastewater or, you know, septic, but we don't want to, you know, contribute to the water being removed from the basin. I mean, maybe 3 people outside of this room know that there's a law that says you're not supposed to remove water from the Champlain Basin. And we're trying to be good stewards, and yes, it is equitable, or it used to be. It isn't anymore, really. We don't, you know, we do have an income based on it, but there's a cost associated with treating it as well. So it's not a moneymaker, and it's not a sexy project. I get it. We've been told as many times from the state that this one's not a good one, but you know, we're trying. We're diligently, you know, trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Is there a tipping point in terms of people who say, I'm not gonna do my septic, it's too expensive?
Well, yes, unfortunately, there are some unscrupulous individuals that have been caught dumping into storm sewers, dumping on their own property, just because they didn't want to wait. It's, to put it in layman's terms, it's 4 trucks a day. Our high water mark, well, before there were restrictions, before we changed over to the new plant, was 60 to 80,000 gallons a day in the summer, because that's when, you know, most of that type of work gets done in spring, summer, fall. But we unfortunately, when they calculated how to build the plant, they didn't do weighted averages. They did how many thousand gallons a day for a 365-day period. And they did chart the entire year. There's several, and I look back at all of the, Sean and I looked at all of the records. There were 4 10-day stretches where we received 0 gallons in January, February, March. I don't know why that was averaged in. It was before my time. I'm not, you know, blaming anybody, but the first engineering firm, Sean was not involved with that, just to clear him. But they came up with the total of average of 14,000 gallons a day. That was slated way back in 2014 when we were first under consent order. So it was nothing that we would have caught. We're not engineers. Sean came on later in the game, and unfortunately, that's how the plant was designed. It's a far cry from what we need and what we would be able to treat should we be given the option to treat more. This is a solution for that after the fact. It's unfortunate that we ended up here, and I have to come hat in hand like a beggar to you folks for some assistance in the design criteria.
Yeah.
Partners, right, work.
The plan too had grown in budget, right, over time. It started at 14, then was 17, then was 22, and ended up at 24.75. Certainly, to be efficiencies agreed, we gave more septic treatment during the project, but we considered the missed opportunity way back when. But we're here now, and optimistic about the potential, and appreciate the commission's consideration of this and potential funding for the village to advance it.
Well, let's see what our resolution is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I heard it here first. Here last, maybe. Got my glasses. Figure out where we want to be. We want to be at item 4. We have a resolution 20. Anybody have any more comments or? Our past resolution, you can also offer them as they're read. Resolution 2025-34 is an MOU between Lake George Park Commission and the Village of Lake George, which is necessary for us to do this partnering he keeps us all up to date. So, do you have the resolution?
Resolution 2025-34, acceptance of MOU with the Village of Lake George. Whereas the Lake George Park Commission finds indicated in the best interest of Lake George to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Village of Lake George related to the planning, implementation, and financial partnership on projects designed to protect and improve the Lake George. And whereas a formal MOU is required for the commission to contribute financially to the Village of Lake George for lake protecting projects and programs that these parties find mutually beneficial to undertake. And whereas the Village of Lake George has reviewed the draft memorandum of understanding and finds it satisfactory to achieve their goal of working in partnership with the commission to protect the Lake George. And whereas the Lake George Park Commission the Lake George Park Commission, whereas the Lake George Park Commission Board of Commissioners has also reviewed this document and finds it in the best interest of the commission to enter into such an agreement. Now therefore, we resolve the Lake George Park Commission hereby authorize the chairman, Ken Parker, to sign a memorandum of understanding to have it sent to the Lake George Mayor, Greg Perry, for final execution of the agreement, such that these two parties may begin to operate under the provisions thereof. So moved.
Motion made, motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Hearing no nays, that's passed. This is really kind of a proud moment for us because, in a way, this might not have come to a head if we didn't successfully institute our septic system program. And so that's what really binds us as partners on this, because we got it, you don't want it, but we're gonna bring it anyway. It all runs downhill.
Sounds like any good partnership.
Yes. We've all been out about those deals. Resolution 2025-35 talks about the funding assistance for project engineering between the Park Commission and the Village of Lake George.
Financial assistance to Village of Lake George water wastewater treatment plant septic received resolution 2025-35. Whereas the Village of Lake George operates the only wastewater treatment plant in the Lake George watershed that receives septic from septic haulers from around the region. Whereas while the treatment plant is relatively new, currently this plant does not have the capacity to intake and process a wide percentage that is being brought in by septic haulers due to its lack of a holding pond required for this activity. And whereas the Village of Lake George recognizes that due to this increased volume of septic created originally from the Lake George Park Commission mandatory septic pump out and inspection program, its treatment plant will need to design and ultimately construct this holding pond at an estimated cost of approximately $3 million. Whereas to seek appropriate funds for this holding pond construction project, a full design of the system needs to be completed. And whereas negotiating this funding challenge and the Park Commission involvement in this manner, the village is seeking financial assistance from the Commission to offset some of the cost of engineering design, as noted through a formal letter from the village mayor, Greg Perry. Now therefore resolved that the Commission, recognizing that the septic pump out program has been a key factor in the need for this new holding pond, seeks to assist the village with the improvement through funding assistance in the amount of $48,000 to be paid upon completion and receipt of an engineering stamp design for this project. So moved.
Motion made, motion second. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. Hearing no nays, that resolution is carried. Thank you for the time you spent.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the extra time.
Slide down. We we learned something interesting today, and it's not really good news. Notice out there, we're approaching our favorite time of public comment. Apparently, the septic issues on the chased everybody, yeah, it chased everybody away. And smoothed out the non-traceable launch. However, we do have open comments, and do you have anybody who'd like to make it? I sole member of our.
On my time, believe it or not, I don't have access.
Oh, okay.
I was here July, May,
Right.
and I don't know if you got a chance to talk it over, say you're gonna hash it over. I have a cesspool, it was measured by Dave Hatton to be 55 feet from the high water mark of English Brook. It's right on Route 9 by Lanfear Sheds, little tiny house. The creek now has made a new channel, so it's like 4 feet wide. And it's really like 80 feet wide. I mean, he can come and measure it again, but I don't know if he measured from the front or the back, maybe it doesn't matter. But I'm wondering if there's anything that can be done. Are they just gonna tell me I have to get a tank? Are they ever gonna put the sewer line up as far as there?
No plans on an extension that way.
So I'm kind of set at least $10,000, and if I get half off, that would be lucky, but $5,000 to me is a lot still. So I don't know if there's anything that they can do, can they? I got this paper, I don't know, this head of it, there's different things I hear said, I don't want to hear. And the first item, it says that a regulation isn't the same as law. You told me a law is law. Is the regulations aren't exactly the same as the law. If you read that page 1 or 2. So I mean, I don't know why I can't. We only come up, it's a 3-season camp. It's taxed that way. I built the house because of the cesspool. I couldn't add bedrooms. There's no bedrooms in the house whatsoever. It's not. I mean, there's a bed in there, but the whole upstairs it's nothing. It's not, there's no rooms, it's nothing. And that's the way I had to build it in order to justify having the cesspool. In other words, it was grandfathered in, and that's why I built it that way. And that's what the contractor had to do it that way and everything. So I'm at the point, it doesn't stink. The only problem I have is I'm closer to English Brook. It's not because you had a leak, you want that fixed, but you failed. But it's not the same thing. Mine doesn't smell, doesn't leak. I didn't even know it was there for a long time. Then I finally dug it up.
We heard you a couple times, maybe we need to have some private conversation about it. Bring it to a close, a solution. One sort or the other. I don't know honestly what we can do, but let's we'll talk amongst ourselves at another time in the near future. And, see if there are any options. I just don't know.
Yeah, we don't, my property is the only thing I can put in, and that is the zoning told me I can own it, and the town doesn't want a tank, really, with the they don't want a tank. Like, he said he would agree with that if, when Dave had said, oh, he can have a tank, but the engineer would have to say, oh, well, he can have a tank, and it has to be such and such, but I have no room on my property, really. It's still gonna be 50 feet from the tank is going to be 50 feet from no matter where it is. And it's right on the neighbor. Put a big long wall on it, rock wall.
I think we understand the situation, so we'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you. It seems like I skipped over the law enforcement committee report. Okay, let's read the resolution. Here we go. We did have a law enforcement committee this meeting this morning, and our lieutenant talked to us about the equipment. Our boats are being winterized, 4 are out of the water so far. We've got winter work scheduled down the boats, which is very important. Our marine patrol will run through October 31st, 2 boats daily, on weekdays, 3 on weekends until Columbus Day, then 1 boat per day. And we had New York State Parks and Law Enforcement Training Schools conducted on the lake in September, and we got another one involving PWCs in October. And there's going to be a report from the overview of the summer stats from the patrol, their busy activities, and Marine Patrol is also involved in some septic inspection enforcement actions and some other enforcement actions, some of which were discussed in executive session, and solutions to them are being sought. You can read the resolution, please.
Resolution 2025-39, acceptance of the law enforcement report, whereas the law enforcement committee met on September 23rd, 2025, to matters pertaining to the Lake George Park Commission's Marine Patrol and the Commission's law enforcement program. And whereas the active law enforcement cases and their status were reviewed in executive session. And whereas the law enforcement committee has reported on the results of that committee meeting at this full commission meeting. And whereas the law enforcement committee recommends acceptance of this month's law enforcement report. Resolved that the commission accepts the report of the law enforcement committee. Be so moved.
Second. Motion made, motion second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. No nays? Passed. One final thing as we leave, I'm sure you're all aware of passing of Jim Court. Jim was a personal longtime friend, and the Court family has got a big footprint here in the village, so it's a regrettable thing that is passing on our thoughts to his family. And with that, we are, thank you for your hospitality this morning. It's very nice. And remember, my tongue works on things. I got your name on file.
Do you want it?
Oh,
There was a motion, there was a second.
did you share it?
Yes.
Okay. Are we done here? All right. We have one second.
We got 2 though.
Well,